I want to thank Dr. Lopez for inviting me back. I love coming here. But yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about advanced narrative. It's kind of like my favorite class to teach because this is kind of the capstone for a lot of our students who are going to go off into the real world. And this is kind of like their last hurrah way to make a film. So advanced narrative is kind of the highest peak that you can, class that you can take as far as a media production student when producing films. So this class has been and still is to be a continuation of making changes, seeing how it works, making another change to try to get the best of this project, this capstone project. So advanced narrative is actually my accumulation of teaching when you start off as a media production student. Is you start off in intro, and then from there you go up from intro where you actually learn composition, framing, the basics of filmmaking. And then from there you learn all those basics and go to intermediate where you actually get into a group and start producing films. So at that point, teaching these type of classes at other universities like UNT, UTA, coming into TEM-UCC, I had the opportunity to teach advanced narrative, and I always ask myself, what is advanced narrative? What is higher than intermediate? If these students already know how to shoot a film from intro to intermediate, what is the level above that? So I thought, well, maybe if I'll just take that intermediate and just add a little bit of, add funding to it where they have to handle money. Well, it worked out at the other university at UNT, but students were once again taking a repetition of the class they've taken before. So it's basically the same thing over and over and over. You're taking a student who already knows how to shoot films, picking back in the class, and they're shooting a film again. So there's not really anything really jarring for them. So it didn't really grab their attention. So I decided, what I need to do is go ahead and integrate something else that's going to be a little bit more defining for them. So I try to create an atmosphere that was genuine to real life being on set in real world. So what would happen is that these students will come into our classes and they would actually have to pitch for the position that they want. So instead of being assigned to the position, say you want to be the director of photography or the actual director, you wouldn't just go say, I want to be a director. What you would have to do is actually have to stand up here with a resume and your demo reel of what you've done since you started, becoming a production student. So they would actually have to pitch for this. So there would be multiple students wanting the same position. But this is kind of the first lesson that they learn is that your repetition, your history of how you was in intro with your colleagues will follow you all the way to advance. Because now they know you might be the best director, but did you communicate with me 2 semesters ago? Did you show up to class? Did you not do this? Did you not do that? So a lot of times we had the best director of photography actually go up, but a lot of them didn't get the position because of their history and how they were with other classes and other classmates. So this is kind of telling them, hey, your whole history of how you work with other people will catch up to you later. Because eventually, when you got to advanced film, that burnt image of how you was with me 2 semesters ago really caught up to you in advanced film. So now a lot of these lessons were being learned from day one because now they thought they were the best, and they were. A lot of them were great cinematographers. But in the past classes with other colleagues in the classroom, they didn't communicate, they didn't show up to class, they didn't work well with others, so they didn't get the position. So what would happen is that you would actually go up to class, you would actually pitch for the position that you would want, and the class would hire you, okay? So with that being said, the class actually has the right to fire you during the middle of the semester. So it's just like a regular real world situation where you put into a classroom where you no longer are going from just shooting a film. Now you're in a real world situation where you're handling money, you're being hired by your classmates, and you can be fired by your classmates. So that was like the first iteration of what, this is one of the students actually pitching for the position. He actually got it. And once I integrated funding into it, it added a whole nother level of pressure and how they really had to handle funding and how they actually prepare for the class. Because number one, if you're shooting a film and you have a 20-page script that involves you shooting in Paris in a cave, do you have $10,000 to do that? You don't, right? So we had to try to have them pick scripts that are budget friendly and actually where they can actually see themselves raising the funding for this, because funding is everything when it comes to film. Number one, in this class, they're going to have to hire somebody from out of the city or actually hire professional actors. You're going to pay them. You're going to pay the locations. You're going to pay for hotels. You're going to have to pay for flights. All that is involved when it comes to being in this classroom. So it's not necessarily you just going out and telling your friends to be a part of this shoot. You're actually going to have a casting call. You're going to have people from all over the United States come and try to be in this film, and you're going to pay for them, and you're going to pay for their hotels. So a lot of this is a pressure that you have to add to not only just shooting the film correctly, but actually having to think about budget and how you're going to have to utilize pre-production at its max. Because if you go over one day, as we know now, if you have to reshoot something, you got to put these people back in hotels, and who's going to pay for all that stuff, right? So this puts them in a real situation where they really have to think about the project. They're not just going to have another project that's going to sit on the drive. And that's what I tell my students. We're not shooting YouTube videos. You can do that in another class. We're shooting movies that make connections, that you have the ability to have a voice, and this is where it starts in this class. So these are our students. In the past, they've done everything from barbecue sales to cookie sales to raise that funding for the film, okay? If they don't have the funding and you have a script with 10 characters, are you gonna be able to pay for those characters? You're gonna be able to pay for those people. I mean, you have the money or you don't. So you have to really, really get together and grind to come together as a class to figure out fundraising as a whole, as a collective. So the end goal for me and for the university is to create films that can compete with student films around the world. I say that because I run a film festival for about 7 years now, and I've seen films from university levels from all over the world at different qualities. And there's some stuff out there, especially from Mexico, that is like above and beyond, like, wow, creative, beautiful films. And I want to produce, our university should be producing the same level of films. I don't see why not. We have the talent, we have the professors, we have the equipment, we should be at that level already. So the end goal is to actually get there and actually get to a Student Academy Award nomination or to get a win. That's the end goal as in a long-term end goal for us, is to actually create a film that, like my professor told me, we're students, we're not creating student films, we're just students creating films. And that's exactly what it should be. All right, so the end goal for us is always to create, is going to be to get nominated for a Student Academy Award. That's the end goal for the university. Okay, a little bit about I'm going to run out of time. I know at the end of the day here, so, but that's the end goal for us. Now, in advanced narrative, it was first taught at TAMU in 2020. And I had, I think, 5 students in that class. Nobody knew what it was. It was kind of the first time being taught, so a lot of students didn't take it, but I have 5 students in that class for advanced film. Now, I'm trying to fill all these positions and trying to shoot this big film with 5 students. So it was kind of a struggle. The script was called Dinner's Ready. That was the first script that they actually put together, and they raised about $1,000. But unfortunately, COVID came that first class. And it was devastating because they were actually learning a lot, being only 5 of them and trying to raise this big project with only 5 crew members, right? So this is kind of what happened. So what happened was, since we kind of they killed the rest of the semester, and they were actually about to shoot, they already had everything raised and they were about to shoot this film. The film that came out of this class was a documentary about them being at home and how it was going through the process and what they felt now being stuck, having this project that they've been lingering for a whole semester, and how it felt for them to be at home thinking about this project.
All right, starting off with vlog number 1, the process in making this film. So making this film, Dinner's Ready, was pretty fun. It was definitely the biggest project that I've worked on so far.
The experience was awesome. I would not trade it for anything. It was the first time, honestly, that I can say it felt like working on a film.
I learned quite a bit, actually. I was surprised to find that I would be learning so much. This is the second time that I've taken this course. And I learned how to do Excel, first of all, because I've never dealt with the Excel program in depth before.
And what did I learn during this? Honestly, I learned better cooperative / communication skills from this, because I had a not so great team last semester, and this team was like on point.
How did I feel when I learned that we were setting back the film? And quite honestly, it wasn't great. Did not feel good about it. I was very disappointed, and I still am.
All I kept thinking about was all the hard work that we put into this film, the time and effort that was invested in creating this film. Durant called me to let me know that the film was suspended. He told me the school was concerned that due to the coronavirus pandemic, they were worried we might get it.
Personally, at first I was pretty disappointed because I felt like we could still make the film with even with the restrictions at the time being what they were.
I am graduating this semester. This is my last year here at St. Andrews CC. So I won't have the opportunity to film this. However, I know that Duran has already organized some stuff for the summer or maybe into next semester, depending on how long this COVID thing lasts.
It's going to transition to the next advanced production class. But I would like to see the next group who come into this. I know it's not y'all's film that y'all got to create from the beginning, but I hope y'all take it seriously and work on it just as hard as we did, because I mean, we put a lot of work into this and hoping it would turn out to be a great film, and you know, it got cut short. So it's sad to see that happen, because I was really invested in this film and I was hoping to see it all the way through. Yeah, for the future students, you know, I hope y'all really enjoyed the script and, you know, have fun time working on this film. You know, I did, and I was hoping to see it all the way through. Yeah, overall, I'd say working with this group of 5 has been awesome, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wish we could have finished the film together, but, you know, unfortunately, the coronavirus stopped us from that.
Alrighty, well, see y'all.
So that project went on to become To My Love. It's been winning awards and actually it's batting like almost 100% for every festival it's been submitted to. It's been selected. So it's been doing pretty good coming from the COVID time, just transitioning that script over to the different advanced narrative. Good thing about an advanced narrative is that in the class itself, we actually have this crew set up, kind of lined up. I'm executive producer. John is considered executive producer. So we have the final say so whatever happens within the class. But we have what we call the LP, which is the line producer. And the LP is basically the backbone, which is with Sarah this semester of the class. So in that class, the way it's structured is that the students run the class. I sit back and I let them run the class. They actually have a schedule of things that need to be done. Say like next week, you have to have social media running. You got to see how much money you can raise, how's the camera stuff going, So the LP runs the class and I sit back and let them run the class. And we step in when there's absolutely need to be. Because once again, they already know how to shoot a film. But as a capstone, they have to work together as a being in the real world situation. So let them figure out the obstacles, let them come together as a collective and figure things out actually is the way that we run advanced film. So these are some of the ones with the asterisk are the ones that they actually have to pitch for. And the ones that are left over and not with the asterisk are the ones that students, sometimes the ones who don't want to kind of raise their hand or they sit in the back and they don't want to be a part of it, are kind of assigned those roles, right? But we want to give those students who really want to flourish as, say, the director or the DP to really get the opportunity to become those positions. I did implement BTS behind the scenes. So most of these roles will be filled in the class once they're hired. BTS is kind of an assigned thing that I give one of my students to record the entirety of the semester from day one until the final day that we shoot. And it's basically, there's going to be 2 films at the end of this. It's going to be the actual film and a documentary film about the class. And we do this every semester because it gives inspiration to the next class to say, hey, this is what they've done. And if this film does take off, we have a whole documentation of how that was processed and how it was done throughout the semester. Now, what happens is once they become positions, they're assigned those positions, we get them into departments. And within the department, they actually have a hierarchy. So in a production, you have the line producer, producer one, producer two, creative department is director, assistant director, script supervisor, and so on and so forth. And these are the actual departments within the actual film. And the way it works is a hierarchy. So if there's a problem, you have to actually go to your head of department. The head of department goes to the LP tries to figure it out. And if it doesn't get figured out, then it comes to us, then we figure it out. So throughout the whole semester, they have to figure out whatever issues they're having. Either it's funding or there's problems in communication. There's things that they have to do. And when it comes to being the LP, they actually have to raise the money and go out with the other person to get a bank account. So they go together, open up a bank account, get all the money funneled to that bank account, and they actually have to have approval before spending anything. So this is the way it works, just like in the real world of filmmaking. So obstacles teaching advanced up until last year, we ran out of time. So throughout the semester, we shoot one film, and that's the capstone film because we want to represent the university as one film. And what I've been running into in the past was I would run out of time. The semester would end. And by the time they shoot the film and by the time the semester ends, we didn't have enough time to edit the film. We had maybe about 2 of editing, coloring, sound, like we really didn't have the time. So a lot of times over the summer, we would have to just try to get a hold of people and try to figure out where they're at because a lot of them have graduated or they moved on or it's summer. They've gone back home or they've gone on vacation. So a lot of students have graduated. So the biggest obstacle I was having was this film that was sitting on this hard drive and I couldn't get a hold of people. Who's handling the film afterwards, doing the edit over the summer? These are the obstacles I was having with advanced film. What happens to the funding? If the person graduated, who's going to handle the leftover funding? So a lot of these obstacles kept coming up and I was figuring out, what do I have to do? What am I going to do to change this? So we decided, I had a conversation with Professor Darbone here. He actually was hired in, 2 semesters ago? Last semester. And what's good about teaching is being able to work across with your colleague and be able to collaborate and brainstorm just to make classes better and to figure out what you can do as a collective to make the university and department better. And speaking with him about the issues that I was having, because he comes back from a professional grip in lighting and cinematography background, talking to him about the situations I was having with advanced film, being it to be the capstone and the center of our department, what could we do to actually focus on that end goal? What is the end goal and what it is and how can we change that? So speaking with him, we decided to actually come up with a process that was going to be able to work for both of us. So talking to the department chair, we decided, we want to align his advanced editing class with my advanced narrative class. So instead of having the rush of running out of time, I was going to actually have them produce the film the entire semester and then hand it off to his class. So now we have multiple students working on one project, more professors involved, more people that were going to be involved with this film. So that way when students graduate, there's a lot more people representative of the film. And if you have an entire semester to edit and do sound design, which is a better way than having to do it in 2 weeks. So we're guaranteed more of a better collaboration and better end result. So once we implemented that, the changes I made was, okay, so advanced film will focus now on pre-production and more on fundraising. The end goal is to raise more money, right? I think the most that we raised in the past was about $2,500. And in this year, our great LP raised about $5,000 in a short amount of time, which is amazing for a short film. And with the students, just students putting together and actually doing fundraising and doing a lot of different things she's going to talk about here in a little bit. But we actually changed it to where we were no longer going to be doing editing. That's going to be handed off to Professor Darbone's class. Once again, as post-production will be completed into the next class. And then actually having new equipment, I applied for a grant. We actually got the grant for $65,000, which is great because we needed it. Like any media program, as you know, you got to have funding to keep up with other universities, or else nobody's going to want to come to the university because you don't have the tools to be ready for the world. So we were blessed to have a grant. I was able to buy cameras. And in the past, we would have issues with students wanting to shoot the final project on their camera. But when they would graduate, they would take off with their camera and off the footage. So it's like, no, we can't have that anymore. So I decided to say, you know what, whatever cameras we have, we're going to stick to that. You're going to learn on that, and that's it. None of this, I'm going to use my camera. No, we're going to learn on what we have because it's ours, and you need to learn these new cameras. So we stuck with that. And then we brought in the DIT, which is the liaison between my class and his class, which is the student who's taking advanced editing, who's going to be on set with us in advanced narrative and actually collect all the footage that's being shot daily. So that way the students, all the stuff is safely with him. And that way, every day we have our shoot, it's already downloaded and they already have it. So it's out of our hands. Okay.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'm John Norbone. I kind of came about this backwards. I spent 25 years working in the studio system in Los Angeles and transitioned over to being a professor this last semester. My primary focus has been cinematography and editing. And that's what I was hired here to do, was basically be the head of editing. And what I run into often is I try to get as great of student engagement as possible. And in order to teach certain lessons, a lot of times I have to give them like films that I've shot years ago, and they don't really have any relationship to it, so they're not as engaged with it. And what this new idea allows them to be more involved, because a lot of the students that are seniors in his class will then take my class the following semester, so it's their film. So they're invested in it. And actually it's 3 classes that we're combining next semester. So what happens is my intermediate post-production class, their final assignment is to serve as the DIT. And they will all have to go to set, manage the data. That means they will show up at like lunch and they will take all the files. They've been and organized everything to scene numbers. They change the file names to match the scene and shots, so it's easier and faster later on. And then they redundantly back them up to 2 different hard drives and ultimately put them on a server. So we're backed up 4 times. Then they all have scene assignments that they all know about already, what they're going to have to edit. And then they rapidly assemble a rough cut edit that then is reviewed by the above the line people like the director and Sarah, the producer, and the DP. And they get a first pass at it. They get some notes and then they're done. That's the way intermediate ends. Then everything is set up so it goes when advanced post begins, all of the junior editing assignments, which is usually what you end up spending all of your energy on. By the time you get to edit, you're just kind of creatively taxed already. They get to go with a film that has a cut, and they get to just focus on polishing that cut. And they spend about 3 weeks refining it, getting it totally cleaned up the way they want it. And then I get to spend a lot of time doing what I think is the most important thing, which is color grading. They spend 4 weeks in color grading. I get to show them a lot of the new tools come out as they come out. Like we're already working in the new DaVinci Resolve suite with things that just came out last week that we were talking about on Thursday. Then they get to go into Fusion, which is all the visual effects. And I get a full 4 weeks to show them how to use like matching masks and pull people off the backgrounds and do all kinds of things. And if something in the movie doesn't directly relate to what I want to teach, then I'll supplement with some materials from other movies. But oh yeah, I guess I could be showing my slides while I do this. The clicker works. Yeah, so the sync and assembly is usually where they burn out most of their, that's like the most exhausting part, right? You make proxy files and things that are smaller files to work off of and syncing all the audio. These are really where junior editors come in, because the senior editors will get, it takes weeks to do this sometimes. However, now with some of the new AI tools, we're doing it much faster. But we create pancake layers, so all of the clips are all synchronized on one layer, and that's the layer that you edit off of like it is actually a single source. It's a lot faster, and they edit that directly into their master. So the idea is that you always want to structure your edit so that if another editor comes in and works on your work, they automatically know where everything is, nothing has to be redone, right? Scratch cut, first cut, then the polish cut. So I get to spend a lot of time teaching them about conforming a project. So currently the industry standard still kind of is Premiere. I'm kind of leaning more towards Resolve now, but we do our edit in Premiere. So then there becomes a process of taking that file into Resolve so we can get into better color suite. So, and that's a little bit of a process. That's where errors end up happening. The system creates errors and you have to go through and make sure that everything came in correctly. And then we up-res all the files at that point. So they're full grade and they're in Blackmagic Raw. We use color space transform. They get to learn how to take multiple camera formats and turn them into one color space, which is very helpful. And then the VFX, we spend 4 weeks on that. And then what we haven't been doing, which we finally get to do, is we really get to go through sound design. We spend a lot of time in Fairlight. This would be next semester. But we spend a lot of time doing all of the sound grading. The new AI tools that are out for audio now are just fantastic, they're just phenomenal. So I lean heavily into AI, not so much as doing the creative work, but streamlining that process. I think it's a tool. It's a tool that should be used, and speed is everything. Okay, so and then what we haven't been able to do either is a very I've sold a lot of my movies before, and this is the worst process of the whole thing, output. So you have to pass quality control. If you're going to release something internationally, there's all kinds of specs you have to adhere to. That is arduous and difficult. And then your 4K exports, HD export, and DCIs, and then finally mixing in Atmos surround sound. This allows your movie to be in a format you can sell, and that's our goal.
So the whole process is kind of unique in a way that these students are invested in this project, because it's not just a project they're turning into a hard drive. This is semesters of work accumulated into one project. So you have students working on multiple semesters on one project, and everybody's relying on the next person to do their job. And that's what makes it very, very important, because students are really invested in one project. Advanced film is different because these students are talking about this class, in class, after class, and other professors' classes, way into the night, having meetings. It really encompasses their whole semester. One class does, because they realize how many students are involved, how many people are relying on each other. And by the time it gets to his class, there's multiple people that are relying on those people.
Yeah, if you don't do your work, you're not just letting yourself down.
You're letting a whole lineage of semester of students down. So our end goal is to create the top quality film to represent the university, because what we want to do is represent TAMU-CC as being a source for students to come to South Texas and become a part of this university, to find out we can still create and compete with UT and NYU. And why not? We have the talent, we have the students, we have the cameras, we have the professors. We should be able to compete at that level. And in order to compete at that level, we have to be really strict on how we approach these type of teachings and learn. And having that process where they actually can learn off of each other, but also learn through a process and understand how hierarchy works.
Yeah, in the future also, I think we're going to be adding a component of AI filmmaking, where students are going to have the opportunity to create bigger scope projects that like immersive worlds, like they can do sci-fi stories and things like that with some of the technology that's out there now, because they won't need a team of character creators or people like that to do these sort of things. Yes.
Yeah. So as a Gen Xer, Final Cut 7 and translated Premiere, you're going to DaVinci Resolve now. So does the school buy, or is this a free program? I mean, and this is the industry standard. You think that's going to be in the future beyond Premiere?
I never want to bet against Adobe. I think Adobe's kind of sitting back right now because they're about to release a lot of new stuff with AI. But I can say that I didn't want to go Resolve, and I've been blown away. I did a deep dive this semester, and I'm 100% in. Yes.
I was just going to say, Rick, are you going to say it?
Yeah, I edited in Premiere, but I learned Resolve so my students could get it for free, so they didn't have to pay for it. You guys have a different situation. I'm assuming you have a BA in media production or a BFA in media production.
I actually have a BA in graphic design because I already do filmmaking. Oh, school, yes. Yeah.
So the students because my big question is, what I'm facing from my students here, they're in a communication program. And so I'm teaching them communication tech skills, and I'm teaching them storytelling, and they have to write a script, and they have to do three projects, the final one, a fiction film, and they don't want to do the work. It's a lot of work. I mean, no, I
Yeah.
understand. It is a lot of work because even what you just said about like people are talking about it in their other class, because there's a responsibility when you get into a crew of like, we're working collaboratively, everybody's got to like pick up their end of the bargain sort of deal. And so anyways, I guess you must have, is it a BFA that you offer in media production or film?
It's not a BFA, it's just a BA.
It's just a
We
BA.
don't have a BFA as of right now. We don't offer a BFA. It's just a BA in media production.
But we do provide.
They're gonna be in a production environment in a way that they sign up knowing that they're gonna be shooting on the weekends and
Yes,
that sort of thing.
I mean, filmmaking never stops.
I mean, it's very strenuous. I mean, I've had in the last 2 semesters, one student who went through through advanced, and she did so good with handling money and raising funding and handling the crew that she got a job at the Film Commission for Visit Corpus. And another student got a job at Q Productions with Selena's dad, doing that, coming through advanced film. So there's a lot of outlets because this is based on such real world experience and what they're dealing with. Not necessarily a class project that's just going to go on a hard drive, right? It's something that represents the university as a collective.
Right.
To answer the other question though, DaVinci Resolve does have a free version. There's a difference between it and the studio version. But the free version is very solid. You can do a whole lot.
Yeah, my students have been using it. I think the majority of them. I tell them to edit in whatever they want, but as a professor, I don't feel comfortable asking them to subscribe to Adobe.
We provide, I think everybody at our university gets Adobe subscriptions.
We're not here, the graduate.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? At A&M, we don't do that.
I don't know how you survive in the world without Adobe subscriptions.
No.
Yeah, we get Adobe free as a, but it's not for faculty, it's because we're an instructor.
Yeah, I thought we modeled.
No, it's not free for our students. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
But it's because we only have 70,000 students. We don't have enough students to like provide.
I mean,
It would be next to nothing.
yeah, I mean, they get Microsoft.
But what I was gonna say is, you know, one of the interesting things about y'all's specific field that's different than almost every field here, I would say, other than maybe music production, is that there's a level of teamwork that has to happen. It's inherent in the curriculum, or should be inherent in the curriculum, and it's inherent in the field. It is if there was one thing about film production, you know, whether it's Hollywood style, independent style, or documentary style, there are very, very, very few one-person bands.
Yes.
You know, it takes teams. And I don't do group work for a grade in my classes because in my field, like we were talking about communication students, most communication students don't want to work in group. They don't want to work in groups.
Yeah.
They don't want to work in groups. They don't. And so they cheat and trade is what I call it. They cheat and trade, right? They cheat and trade to not have to do it. So I just take it completely out of my curriculum and don't do it. But that's not an option for you all. That's not an option. And so
Track their hours.
Right. And so one of the things that I find I want to say like inspiring is that it's in terms of programs, there are different kinds of programs that you can say you do. And when you decide you want to go do filmmaking as a major, it takes a commitment that's just very different and not thought about as differently than saying I want to be a comm major or I want to be PR or marketing. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, I love teaching comm. Nothing wrong with these, but it's just to say it's very different. And the reason I bring up music production is because if you're going to record bands, like it takes a team. You know, it takes a team to record. Yes, you can do it in your closet, but if you're going to do it, you know, with drums and mic the drums properly and a bass guitar and vocals or instruments that Will made, and we're going to professionally produce this, we're going to have a rundown, you know, just, we're going to have a rundown of what's going to happen. You have producers, you're going to have directors, you're going to have, you're going to work with A&R, you're going to do all these different things on both sides. It's this whole other mindset that is connected to college and university in a really unique way. I mean, it's all that to say. I mean, y'all are thinking about this at a level that is impressive, and the things that y'all are breaking down are impressive.
We're lucky to have the support to say, hey, we want to change the curriculum in a way that his class aligns with my advance so we can produce this film.
Yeah.
So we are actually making those changes. This is the first semester where they actually shifted the classes so it would be in line so we can produce that film that we want.
It gets bigger too. His screenwriting class will ultimately be writing the script.
So it goes from screenwriting class, and then advanced gets the script from screenwriting. They don't pick something that they've done, and it goes down the line. So it's a collective of students that are going to be all into one capstone that we're trying to produce as the film for the university.
So you're mentioning all these AI tools that you want to incorporate. So that documentary that I'm working on right now, there's a lot of visualizations in terms of mapping, migrations, and a lot of things that ancestry maps and all these things that I want to do in like really cool visual ways, and I wanted to use AI, and then was adamantly advised against it, and my cinematographer was like, no, because of the backlash that we were going to get when we started distribution at film festivals. And so I don't know, I'm just curious to hear about your opinion of like,
So like I was saying earlier, I'm like from old school Hollywood. Like I grew up, I came out learning how to shoot on film. So I'm like way back in the day, we were shooting 35. AI is a tool.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And eventually people are gonna have to accept it because it's here. It's here, it's gonna change everything. I think if you bury your head in the sand and ignore it, you're gonna be obsolete in a couple of years. So you have to at least understand like where the limitations are. Don't let it's always gonna do something wrong. It's gonna get you 80% of the way there and then make a terrible mistake, and you still have to know how to fix it. So it's how you use it, how you refine it. It allows you to do more because you have more time to focus on what matters, which is your story. You know,
and that's the great thing about AI is that it's going to force everybody to go back to the core of everything, which is story.
Story.
You know, because anybody can shoot a beautiful picture. Your iPhone can shoot 8K, but now it's relating back. Can you tell a story? You have all these tools to tell this visual story, but can you really go back to the basics and tell a good story?
It also lets more voices in the equation. That's what I like. It breaks down a lot of the barriers in Hollywood. To me, it lets small stories see the light of day because ultimately the individuality, like the unique voice, unique perspective, all those stories that will have a small market, they're a lot easier to make. They're a lot more feasible to make and compete at a certain level, you know? So Hollywood loses a little bit of power, which I think is fantastic, you know, because it's fantastic that way.
The thing about John is that he's already teaching students how to use AI in editing. So the students are going to be graduating with already having the knowledge of how to use AI as a tool, as he said, not as a cheat tool, but as a tool to enhance production and to make it faster and get quicker to the point. You know, especially like our film, you know, we're going to have to try to get this out as fast as we can because we don't want students, you know, seeing this film 4 years after they graduate, right? We want to be able to get this film out as fast as we can. So he's utilizing tools to make the process a lot quicker. And it's great that students are learning from him because he's learning as the technology changes. He's always in his office. Look at this, showing me the new AI stuff. And he's teaching that class the very next day.
You have a list of like AI tools?
Yes. I'm a big fan of Midjourney for any image generation, and I'm a big fan of Runway ML for turning images into video, and also lip syncing. The refinement, if you use like, there are places that like, I think it's called AI prompts. You can look at people's prompts that have been successful and you can copy them and then change some of the wording to be more suit your style, and then picking like reference images and making sure that you're giving it images, reference images that you want it to be similar to in a certain artistic style, and you can keep, it's all about the refinement, and you can get some amazing stuff.
So Sarah's going to give a student perspective.
Yay, Sarah.
So Sarah is awesome.
Yeah.
Sarah actually
Yeah, so I'm actually in both of their classes, in the post-production class with Darbon and then in the advanced narrative. And technically, I shouldn't have gotten into the advanced narrative. I'm more a documentary person myself, but they were not offering advanced documentary this semester. So then I went last semester and said, Duran, I need to finish my classes. I'm a senior, I need to get into another class, and I didn't want to do like film criticism or something like that. So he let me in, and yeah, very grateful for the experience, and definitely in shock the second week when we had to pitch for a position and I had no idea what I was going to do. And he said, "You should pitch for line producer." I was like, "What's that?" And then yeah, the rest is history. So
she wanted the easy way out. She know documentary film and she wanted to be BTS. I'm like, no, you're here to learn, and this is the part. This is the class where you're gonna make mistakes and be okay with it. So do something outside of your room, right? So I pushed her to be the LP, which is the top of the class, who runs the ship, steers the ship, and I'm so glad that she took that position.
Yeah, so pretty much what I was doing over the semester, so logistics of film production, overseeing all the departments, managing production finances, and then on-set craft services, which was very fun. So logistics. So I would lead class pretty much every week. I mean, Duran was there pretty much right when I was pointing. He's like, "Okay, Sarah, get up to the front of the class. Let's lead." And I was like, "Okay, let's go, everybody." I worked with a team, 2 other students, our production team. So each department then had a couple people working together. So we met outside of class for at least an hour every week. Sometimes we had Zoom calls if we couldn't meet in person, planning, securing the talent. We had to set up a backstage account. We set up an Indiegogo account for fundraising. We had to keep up constant correspondence with talent, with scheduling, making sure that everybody had the talent release forms. And a big part of the project that I'm really excited about is that my brother graduated from the Berklee College of Music, and we secured him as the person to create the film score for our project. So he's an amazing artist, majored in film scoring with a minor in conducting. And in the later part of the video, you'll see his audition from Berklee that we'll have in the footage. So each week then too, I had to constantly bugging and texting Duran with questions, and yeah, being a peacemaker in between disputes between heads of departments and so on, trying to be really punctual, organized, professional. Not always easy. Of course, some students are really go-getters and others are kind of, dragging along. But we all kind of came to the fore throughout the semester, and I think it was really a good experience for all. So yeah, finances was fun. I had to laugh when the other students said I had never used Excel before. I told Duran, unfortunately, that I knew how to use Excel. He's like, "Oh, great, you'll be the line producer." So yeah, just it was fun to see the money coming in. We did bake sales, we had a raffle, and then also just by word of mouth and the Indiegogo account. So yeah, we raised about $5,300 for our film.
Cookies.
Cindy cookies, what we call it.
Cindy cookies.
So famous.
The new thing.
So yeah, brownies and chocolate chip cookies. People were super generous.
$1,000 on selling cookies, guys.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
$1,000 of cookies, that's pretty crazy.
So, and then each week also in class, then we'd ask, okay, we need to buy this week. The class would have to give the okay so that everything was being accountable and not just, buying. I was a little bit stingy sometimes, they said, but then we had enough money at the end to make sure we did everything right. And also purchasing hotels. We did hotels for lead roles and also guest travels. So trying to coordinate that, and also any pickups then trying to put that into the budget. Yeah, and on-set craft services. It was kind of cute because, I was there getting the meals, everything like that. And then David, our assistant sound, he's like, "You know what, Sarah, you're kind of like the mom on set. You're bringing the cookies, making sure everybody's okay." And it was just like, yeah, kind of a really family experience. House of Rock donated pizza for us, so it was amazing. And yeah, of course, I had chocolate chip cookies and brownies on set, and everybody was very happy. And then we put together a little video with some behind the scenes, and then the second part, a little preview of our film entitled Milagros. Yes. So that's our whole crew. The two EPs.
That's kind of our little ongoing ongoing path that we continue to change and alter and continue to work on and to make better for our students and to represent the university once more. And the collaboration with actually without John, I think this transition wouldn't have been as easy as it is right now. It's not easy, but I mean, it's a lot easier knowing that you have a colleague who supports the same thing and we have that same want to produce something at the highest level for our students. So thank you guys for letting us be here. Yes.
Yeah. Let's take some questions.
What's your policy on, I guess, first weapons, second fight scenes, and third intimate scenes?
Like any, well, we try to, when we get the script, if the script is first given to the students at the beginning of the semester, that's one of the things we talk about is how far do you really want to go with the script? And I try not to kill any kind of creativity. Like if there's a fight scene in there, but for some reason my other classes, my intermediate and intro, there's always blades involved somehow. I don't know why every project has a blade. Somebody's getting stabbed, something's wrong with knives and students, I don't know what it is. But we try to, and I told them, if the psycho violence should be there for a reason. If it's there for no reason, we're not going to shoot that script. There has to be a value to what's happening within the scene and why that is there, right? If it's not needed, we're not going to shoot it because it's not part of something that's going to tell the whole story as a complete narrative. All right, so we try to pick scripts. Number one, and I told them at the beginning, no zombie movies, no spy movies, because that's not going to get nominated for Academy. Our end goal is to create a film that is actually can be looked at as being Academy Award nominated capable. We want to shoot a story that actually could be at that category. And those type of films will not ever get to that level. They just won't.
Really, really impressed with your program. It really is. It's just a beast starting to finish. Probably the most impressive is the fundraising aspect. I also, probably the highlight of my day was her takeaway from the film project we learned a lot about. So. I walked in a little late. Did you talk about casting at all and how you go about that?
So I come from Dallas. He comes from a bigger place like LA. And for us, I can throw a casting call right now and have 20 people out the door in the next 10 minutes, right? Corpus Christi is a little bit different. There is a film community there, but it's not as deep as, say, San Antonio or Austin. So you're a little bit limited on resources when it comes to the actors. And a lot of times, like I told them, I don't want any double dipping where you see this actor in like 10 student films, because then it pulls away, right? And I want them to have the experience of actually having to pay a professional actor and what it's like to deal with a professional actor to say, if he's going to be on set for X amount of days, you're going to have to pay him, right? And if you have to be in a hotel, you're going to have to pay him. So like all these factors really play a factor in how they really handle a project in real life. Like we want to give that experience to students of learning, but also be in a situation where if they do have to come up against obstacles, how are they going to fix it, right? One of the situations we have now is that we ran the stuff that you were seeing at night shooting. It was already hitting 3 a.m. and we had like 3 more scenes to shoot, right? And the very next day, it's like, okay, we're going to bring these talent in the next day to shoot this scene in the morning that's supposed to be day for night. The crew's already dead. Like, are we going to be able to suffice and have the energy to do that in the morning? So the producers got together, the students did this. They got together, they called the talent and say, hey, can we reschedule? Can we do this? Can we do that? You know, and then there was a point where the director kind of got a little upset because he wanted to shoot the rest of the night. And I was like, no, the line producer said, that's the law, that's the law, that's the way it is. You're stuck like that. So we're not shooting that scene, right? So these are the situations that are learning. And when it comes to dealing with cast and how to deal with understanding that, hey, your budget says a lot. You know, you have to be really tight in how you perform and how you think about this project going in and be prepared for obstacles like that.
And actually, all the talent that we got was through Lydia Blanco came to talk to our class. She does the talent agency in Corpus Christi, and all of our lead roles were through her, actually. So, most from Corpus Christi, and then also Brenda Garza from
Rio Grande Valley.
Rio Grande.
So they have a couple of actors, or 3 or 4 actors coming from about 2 hours away. And the semester before that, 2 semesters before that, our film was actually shot in San Antonio, so we would have to drive 2 hours to San Antonio. So they would have to budget for students to only travel, but also pre-production for going to camera scouting, you know, all that stuff had to be planned because it was 2 hours away. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm told, it's really, really good. If they're moving toward the finished film, do you allow for all, like, in Chicago, like, a lot of films are made with theater actors and so forth. The idea to in-kind, kind of like staying over and like setting up, instead of hotel, you set up kind of rooms and so forth. Is that kind of creative budgeting kind of talk? If you don't have always the funds to kind of like feel sets.
I've done that on my personal films before. Yeah, I mean, that usually like I do a lot of action stuff a lot of times. So I have like a stunt team come in from Houston, and there'll be like 6 or 7 of those people, and I'll just get them like a cool Airbnb or B&B and put like 6 people in there, make them sleep on the sofa and stuff.
I think for the class, I think the biggest takeaway is you know, you have a script, you have to raise those funds for that. So the biggest thing is to make sure that you have the allocated amount of money to be able to complete that film. In-kind stuff, I mean, stuff like, you know, food and stuff like that, when they ask different restaurants if they can donate, but when it comes to like, we're ourselves in need of money. So it's like, we're the ones that need to be in kind, you know, so it's kind of one of those things where they're trying to get as much as they can for as less as spending as possible.
I was just gonna say something to that, because like one of the reasons I think it's kind of like a bad habit to teach that in this setting. Like when I teach, it's like, yeah, we'll crash, we'll do this, we'll do that. But in your setting, what you're really trying to do is break bad habits. Because one of the hardest things, and Dan knows this, is like, how do you get paid to do this? You know, how do you get paid, and how do you get other people to get paid to do this? Because like and that's one of the things I was like really trying to differentiate. Why, like, when does teamwork work? When money is on the line. Yeah. That's when teamwork works. When something is not only the sum, you know, greater than the sum of the parts, but money is on the line. People's, you know, heart is on the line. People's, what's it called? Your reputation. Yeah, your reputation is on the line. So, like, cause like for me, I would be like, yeah, just have them cry. Like, I'm doing like, I was joking with Rick earlier. We were talking about it's cinema verite. You know, it's cinema verite. You know, it's documentary verite. You know, it's like, which for those that don't know what cinema verite is, it's just all improvisational. Like, we're just, you know, we're shooting in London, we're shooting here now, we're shooting there, and it's just all these vignettes, and it's who you have, you know, it's who's there, and it's improvisational, and and like noise music, I love it. That's what I shoot. That's what I do. But that's not a program like this. And this has a structure. That's why it's like I really, if you're going to do what you're doing, the way you're doing it to me is what's really impressive about it. You know, if you're going to go all in, it's like, yeah, you can't have your friend do this, or you're going to have to pay them.
Exactly, like her brother who composed that music you just heard. You know, she's gonna pay him. I mean, that's the aspect of it. If he's gonna do the work, he has to get paid. The locations that we stayed at, they get paid. You know, we have to do this reshoot. We have to pick up these actual pickup shots. They're gonna get paid again, and they're gonna get paid again. The actors do as well. So as a location as well, right? So they have to have this mentality. They have to do things right the first time, or else it's gonna come back again, right? So you have to do it right the first time. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm trying to teach them in this class is to have responsibility, understand that there's other people relying on your decision making, right? So
that's the best part for the real world too, because it's like opportunities. It's in a class, we're still learning, but it's real world situation, and I don't do my part. You know, there's a whole talent, a whole crew that's like waiting on me. So it was really good.
Do y'all plan as in the production or maybe post-production distribution, or is distribution not part of the equation because it just stays with like student academy award? Then like if it does ever go to distribution, like how does that money?
And that's a whole other can of worms, because once you start producing work and then you start getting distribution, the university can get involved. And that's, you know, how anything university goes. Yeah, if you're simply trying to do anything coming up here with 40 forms, like literally. Right. So when you get to that point where money's being involved with the sale of something that was created, just like a patent, if you create something within the university, it's theirs. It's almost the same thing, right? So using their equipment, using their facilities, we're getting paid on their time. So that could run into an issue that we haven't crossed yet. But I think the end goal for us is to have a program that other students can come through and say, hey, I want to be a part of this program, because if you look in the wall, they have all of these films that won all these awards. And that's the environment that we want to create, is to have that synergy and that want to be at that highest level.
They will know how to make, they will know how to deliver for distribution.
Yes, we'll have the insight on how to do that.
They're in sellable format.
Yes.
Well, thank y'all so much.